If you would, please rise. I'm going to call on Commissioner Ornstein for the pledge. I'm sorry, for the invocation and the pledge.
Bow your heads with me, if you will. Heavenly Father God, we come to you this evening with thanksgiving and gratitude in our hearts, Lord, for all the many blessings, many in which we just take for granted, Lord, our community, the sunshine, Lord. We just thank you for all those things that we often forget to be appreciative of. Lord, we're also thankful this evening for those who are here in attendance, Lord, and their families and those that they represent. Lord, we're thankful for our first responders, fire safety, Lord, our sheriff's office. We thank you for giving those folks the desire to protect us as a community. Lord, we just ask your blessings and your presence here tonight with us. Give us wisdom, discernment, guidance, and we'll give you the honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Ornstein. Now, Commissioners, if you would, we've got a real brief proclamation that we want to deliver this afternoon. So if y'all will, if you want to, would like to join us downstairs right or up front right quick, and we'll take care of that. This proclamation is to recognize Animal Volunteer and Rescue Day. The Burton Fletcher Foundation took a few minutes earlier this afternoon to recognize some folks that were instrumental here in our community from the standpoint of volunteering, pulling animals from the animal shelter, really saving the lives of over 1,000 plus animals. And so they've done a fantastic job, and this proclamation is to recognize those individuals. I'll deliver the proclamation. It says, whereas animal rescue organizations, volunteers, and animal shelters are tirelessly working to ensure animals have safe, loving homes, and whereas animal rescues advocate for, defend, and rescue animals to improve the lives of animals every day, and whereas animal rescues and volunteers in our community help support animals through donations of time, funds, and educating the community on animal welfare. And whereas the invaluable contributions of love, kindness, care, socialization, and support provided by animal shelters, rescues, and volunteers to our animals help prepare them for new beginnings with their new families. Whereas a day of recognition presents an opportunity to highlight the actions of many rescues, volunteers, and animal shelters in their roles in fostering and finding positive outcomes for animals in Lowndes County and surrounding areas. And whereas it takes a village to support the needs of animals, Lowndes County commends all rescues, volunteers, and animal shelters for their dedicated service to animal welfare. We sincerely appreciate all of you and your outstanding efforts. Now, therefore, I, Chairman Bill Slaughter, on behalf of the Lowndes County Board of Commissioners, as requested by Mr. Burton Fletcher and the Burton Fletcher Foundation, do hereby recognize February 27th, 24 as Animal Volunteer and Rescue Day in Lowndes County and call this observance to the attention of our citizens. So proclaim this, the 27th day of February, 2024. Mr. Burton. Thank you for taking the time to recognize these great volunteers and the hard work that they do, and we appreciate what you do. Right. We also have some, I believe there's 3 of the folks that's here that was going to receive a copy of the proclamation as well. Is that right, Mr. Fletcher? Yes. All right, could you ask them who they were?
Yeah, would y'all come on down, Mr. Brown,
I know we had folks with the,
Mr. Telsky, Ms. Hannah?
Hannah, Mr. Telsky, Mr. Brown. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Saw that cup right there. Man, ain't drinking that stuff.
One day we
All right, Commissioners, inside your packet, you'll find the work sessions of February the 26th as well as the regular session minutes of February the 27th. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll now move into our public hearing items. Our first public hearing case is Agenda 5A. This is REZ 2024-01. This is the Gresham Event Venue. It is located at 8415 Old Valdosta Road. It is currently EA, and the request is for a PDR. This involves 10.3 acres, and it will be served with well and septic. Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Commissioners. As stated, the request here is for EA to PDR in order for the applicant to utilize the property as a club, lodge, meeting, or event facility, also to accommodate overnight guests. It has frontage on Old Valdosta Road and Salem Church Road. It's within the rural service area and agricultural forestry character area. The TRC analyzed the request, the standards governing the exercise of zoning power set forth in 10.0105 of the ULDC, and the factors most relevant to this application, including the nature of the request as it pertains to a rural setting, current trends of event venues in rural areas, the surrounding agricultural and clustered residential use of lands, and is therefore supportive of the following staff-recommended conditions: that this property may be used for uses permitted in the EA zoning district, and a club, lodge, meeting, or event facility with overnight accommodations where the operation of the facility is limited to meetings, retreats, celebrations, and weddings for groups no larger than the fire code allows for the proposed buildings and area, outdoor performances by bands or ensembles that are accessory to a meeting, retreat, celebration, or wedding shall be allowed. 2, unless otherwise noted on the approved site plan, the use of the property shall be subject to all standards applicable to properties in the EA zoning district. 3, the operation of the event facility shall adhere to the Lowndes County Noise Ordinance. And 4, exterior lighting shall be shielded to avoid direct illumination of adjacent properties. Again, this was a half-mile notification radius that was sent out to adjoining property owners in addition to those immediately adjacent. Notice posted on the property at the proposed locations for rezoning. And here's the more detailed site plan, as you'll note here, a zoomed-in view showing the existing lodge and the existing accessory building, plus the future buildings, should the applicant choose to build them at a later date without having to come before the board again to rezone. This allows potential expansion, but there are no plans at this time for that proposed expansion. Again, here's an aerial of the property, showing it as it stands today. And again, up the driveway, the accessory building there in the foreground, the main lodge there in the back, and up close view of the lodge. The property looking towards the south, you'll note there the potential future barn building could potentially be located behind that last tree there. Then again, the ponds facing south, facing to the north, the property as it stands. Coming back around the property towards the northeast. And again, showing the approximate location halfway between the house and the nearest residence to the northeast. You'll notice it's approximately 1,500 feet through a series of planted timber and natural vegetation. So again, this is the proposed site plan. in your packets there. On your packets is called the site layout for Oak Grove here. But with that being said, the Planning Commission ultimately recommended denial of this case 5-3 after much discussion by the applicant's representative and those in attendance in opposition.
Any questions for Mr. Dillard?
Mr. Dillard, they're wanting to rezone 10.3 acres. How many acres do they actually own out there?
The applicant owns approximately 1,200 acres in this area, most of it extending, this is the farthest east portion, and then going all the way west towards Brooks County.
Okay.
Jason, I'm just wondering what, not to say difference, we know the difference between PD and EA, but I'm looking at what can be done with EA. What in addition that stands out to you that would be different for us in the PD request?
The PD request, as it presented with these staff conditions, is mainly for uses that are already allowed in EA with the addition of the event lodge facility. Right now, it's just an existing home. It could be rented out on a short-term basis like any other private property. But this allows for the additional things that a lodge and overnight accommodations would. That's the main difference. Other than that, we're recommending that everything be done with the EA standards as it is today.
Because I guess what I'm wondering is, it's already in the capacity of being a club, lodge, meeting, and event facility is what you're saying?
No, sir. That's why the request is for the PDR. Right now, it's just a house.
Condition that staff recommended,
Okay,
that 1, 2, 3 in our notes.
okay.
Am I right?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, that's your conditions.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The
That it's still
conditions would be delimited to that.
Yes, sir. So it can still be used for all the EA uses with the addition of the club, lodge, and meeting facility with overnight accommodations. It also must adhere to the noise ordinance. Those are the two biggest driving conditions for this particular use.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll now move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ask for those that wants to speak in opposition first, and then those that are in support or in favor. And then following that, then I will give each side an opportunity to rebut. So we'll move on. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brad Folsom, address is 2611 North Patterson Street, Valdosta. I'm an attorney here in town. I represent several, a good many of the adjacent residents to this facility on all the different roads there, Salem Church, Webb Road, Coffee Road. And we spoke at the Planning Commission about this. I think Mr. Marshall's question is one that is interesting, because even though this is couched somewhat in terms of a small 16-person capacity facility, the PDR map that shows various proposed buildings. It also, if you have been out there or looked at this, shows a one-lane entrance and exit onto Old Webb Road. It also does not speak to, in fact, the conditions speak to specifically allowing outdoor bands, outdoor parties, outdoor events of any type. There's no limit on those. You could have 1,000 people out there and be fully in compliance with what they're requesting. So there are concerns, significant concerns about noise, and that comes really from the residents around this facility talking to residents around the other 4 event facilities in this county. And the problems they're having with the noise every Friday and Saturday night till 11, 12 o'clock. And I think, as all of you know, the noise ordinance in Lowndes County leaves something to be desired. It's the standard under that noise ordinance is plainly audible inside a home after 10 o'clock and until 7 a.m. Most noise ordinances, I think you'd find, will be measured outside the home with a specific decibel reading and that sort of thing. So it's very sketchy. Sketchy may not be the right word. It's very non-objective, I should say. The capacity and the roadway is a problem, because no matter what you say or what they say they're going to do initially or upon approval, like I say, the capacity could be tons of folks out there. And the roadway, as y'all know, if you've been down Webb Road, This particular driveway turns off really at a low point and a curve. It makes a turn off the road and makes an immediate turn inside a fence to the right and then back to the left up to this facility. One lane only, in and out. They say there's a future exit onto Salem Church Road, but for all intents and purposes, every visitor to this place is going there. Well, you get, let's say we have a wedding of 400 or 500 people, and they're all coming there at a specific time. Well, you've got traffic issues really terribly in a very rural area. So we don't know how much is going to be used. The applicant owns another facility, I think they've disclosed in Cook County, less than 15 minutes from this facility, that does the exact same thing, has all kinds of events there. I've been to events there myself of several, more than 100 folks for sure. So I'm not quite sure why we need another one of these. And that kind of brings me to the last point I want to make, and that is that there's 4 of these in the county, and I think I've mentioned this to the Planning Commission. I think it's time for the commission to make somewhat of a policy decision here, is that how many of these are needed. And that's not based on whether or not, or the innuendo that they're all rented out every weekend, which I don't know there's any evidence of that. That's what I think some of you may have heard. But there's nothing before the commission, I think, that would specifically point that out. And we have to realize that this is in an area that is all residential. It's all rural. It's people who have moved there and bought larger tracts to have a specific kind of living experience. Your own zoning ordinance, your own zoning standards point to the fact that this should not occur in this type area. This is the quintessential version of spot zoning, to allow this kind of activity in a specific residential, agricultural, rural area. And I don't think the right thing to do is base any decision on what the market may be indicating. That's up to the applicant to decide, but you have to protect the existing citizens who have bought there and who have built residences there and who live there based on what they know the zoning to be. If you want to change the zoning ordinance, that's one thing. Notify everybody, completely change the character area, but that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to zone one particular property, which is going to change the entire area out there for these people who have invested many thousands of dollars in their lives and livelihood. And I would ask that you deny the zoning request. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the speaker?
Yes, sir. How many restaurants do we need in Lowndes County?
I don't know.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
That's completely up to the people who try to open them, I suppose.
I agree
As long
with
as they open them in the right place.
I
But
agree.
they all open them in commercial areas. They don't go out in the middle of a residential area and open something that has 600 or 800 people coming to it every weekend, bothering the folks who have built 20, 30 acre tract homes there.
No other questions? All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Richard Stalvey. I live at 215 Nob Hill here in Valdosta. I own a farm that's a mile and a half from the subject site, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my family members. Dr. Marshall also almost stole my speech, so rather than sit down, I'd like to piggyback on where you were headed, I think. I want to read the definition of Zone EA, a state agricultural district, 5 acre, and it's out of the July 11th, 23 Unified Land Development Code, so it's hot off the press, unless I got an old version, and I don't think I did. And it's 2 sentences, please, I'm just going to read it. The district is intended to provide for agricultural activities, including those related to crops, livestock, and timber, protected from the effects of suburban residential development. Single-family homes and specified accessory structures and uses are permissible. The application does not even come close to that. Now, let me tell you what my fear is here. Not that somebody wants to have a dance out in the country somewhere, but let's look at it from an area of the county that's bordered by Interstate 75 on the east, Cook County on the north, Brooks County on the west, and a highway at 122 on the south. What you do here tonight is going to set the tone for that entire area. So if you approve the application, I may go home and fill out me an application too. I think it's going to establish a very dangerous precedent for that area, and I don't think that was the intent. Thank you very much.
Any questions for the speaker? Okay. We've got about 2.5 minutes. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone else? All right, hearing none, we'll now move into those that are in favor of this application. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Bill Holland with Coleman Tally, 109 South Ashley Street. I'm an attorney here in town representing Mr. Gresham and his family who run Live Oak Plantation. It's in South Cook County, but probably some of you are familiar with it, Class A operation. And they have agreed to limit the number of people to come to these events to 175. So we're not talking about 1,000 people. We're not talking about 250 people. But, and I've heard these arguments, I've heard them before, as to how many wedding venues we
Sir, if you
should
could
have.
keep your remarks on the microphone, this is being recorded.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. I've heard these arguments before as to how many wedding venues we should have. Well, I mean, free enterprise is gonna dictate how many wedding venues we're gonna need. And the next applicant may not have 1,250 acres bordering his wedding venue. But if the needs are there, you're gonna have the applications there. So think about that. This is a Class A guy with a big tract of land that we know will run it right. The entries, he's got the one entry coming and going to one lane, but it's because the property's so big, there's 2 other possible entries for traffic. So I don't think traffic's gonna be a problem. Mr. Gresham's here, I'm here, we can answer questions. But again, we've agreed to try and accommodate everybody and limit it to 175 people. And we feel like it's appropriate zoning. I mean, you could have chicken houses, you could have a lot worse. And you have a noise ordinance that'll protect them, or it should. So I'm here to answer any questions you got.
Any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you, Mr. Holland.
Thank you.
We have about 8 minutes left. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? All right, hearing none, we'll now have a rebuttal. Is there anyone in the opposition that would like to rebut? Anyone in favor that would like? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Carla Penny. I live at 8601 Morven Road in Hayhira. And I think I heard correctly when I heard that the nearest residence to this property is 1,800 feet?
15, I believe.
1,500 feet, that's right. Well, I live about 5,000 feet from a currently existing party club venue, and it's loud. No matter how many people you allow, you still have the same amount of noise pollution from the party being held. And like I said, I'm 5,000 feet away. There are 3 more houses closer to this venue than mine, and they suffer so badly and are so livid about having to live their weekends this way that they couldn't show up tonight. They're just too angry about the noise that we have to suffer. Paige has been out and experienced it, and I hate to see other neighbors out in my neck of the woods suffer as much. Thank you very much.
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you, Ms. Penny.
Mr. Chairman, let's remind me what our noise, our page, what our,
Okay.
We gotta.
Yeah, let's finish this first. Would those that's in support like to rebut? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and commissioners, I'll turn it back over to you for your consideration. Mr. Ornstein, you had a question.
The noise ordinance, the hours, summarize that for us.
So the noise basically stops at 10 p.m. And then it can occur and begin again at 7 a.m. So And the threshold is whether or not it can be heard inside someone's residence. The reason that we currently don't have a decibel rating attached to the noise ordinance is that we have to work with magistrate court on what we'll hear in the measure of standard that they are willing to take a look at. When the noise ordinance was developed, the conversation there through our prosecutor and the magistrate court was more related to whether or not you could hear it inside a home versus a decibel limit. And they had some reasons for that I don't have a list of currently. But in working with the current facilities that we have, code enforcement has direct contact with whoever's running those events, and so they know to turn the music off at 10 a.m. And we have had instances where we've had it louder and we've gotten complaints from neighbors and we've asked for them to turn it down. It seems to be relative based on the temperature and the time of the year and whether or not the leaves are on the trees. There can also be a frequency issue there. It's not always that you can audibly hear the music inside, but there can be bass or other frequencies that cause discomfort. So certainly with some of the existing facilities, not all the existing facilities, we have had a fair amount of complaint that we have all been involved in related to the noise.
But most of that noise is band related.
Correct.
I mean, it's not crowds of people that are necessarily, I mean, from what we've been able to determine, it's related to the band.
I'm not aware of a complaint that we've gotten related to crowd noise. It's all been related to music, whether, and it can depend on whether or not it's a live band and whether or not it's a DJ, and then it also depends on the type of music that they're playing.
It just seems to me like it's really an issue of them not following the ordinance and them continuing to play after 10 p.m. because, I mean,
They cut it off at 10 p.m. We've not had anyone continue to play after 10 p.m. There's a process in the ordinance where they can make a request to my office for an extension. We have had one extension granted on New Year's Eve 2 years ago, and the state noise ordinance provides for fireworks up until midnight on New Year's Eve, and so we granted that request because there were already fireworks, and we knew that would not really be any more of an issue as far as the noise goes. But everyone turns off at 10 o'clock unless they've made that request. Sometimes even after we've asked people to turn it down, we've still continued to receive complaints. And Ms. Bates and I have been out where one of us would be at the facility and one of us would be in someone's home, and we're, on the phone, we've turned it down, can you still hear? And again, it just depends on the temperature, what type of music they're playing, and how many leaves are on the trees, and which way the wind's blowing even can be a factor.
but the complaints are prior to 10 p.m. then.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the rezoning request with the 4 conditions.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the request with the 4 conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote with a show of hands. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Those in opposition to the motion, please raise your hand. The vote is 3-2 in favor of the motion. The motion passes. We'll now move on to agenda item 5B. This is agenda item 5B is REZ 2024-02. This is the Bird property. It is located at 3715 and 3725 Bird Road. It is currently EA. The request is for R1. This involves 7.5 acres, and it will be served with well and septic. Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir, as stated, the request here is from EA to R1. You'll note the property here is approximately 7.5 acres, but as recently surveyed, it's closer to 6.4 acres, a very long, narrow tract, abutting Bird Road, which is a local county maintained road in the rural service area and ag forestry area. This property was created in 1969, and there are 2 existing houses which have historical construction dates of 1971, predating the county's adoption of subdivision regulations in 1972. Again, you see those neighboring properties to the north that were rezoned in 1996 from AU to SA at that time, and then subdivided for the applicant's children, more or less using family ties back in the day. Those properties range in size from 1.86 to 3.86 acres in size. Again, you see the future road. There are a portion of the very southwest corner that are in some wetlands here. And here's potential survey provided by the applicant showing the entirety of the tract there in the middle, and then tracks 1, 2, and 3 on your left there. Tracks 1 and 2 containing the existing houses. Tracks 3, 4, and 5 are potential tracks that do meet county zoning for R1 if approved. And again, this is just to showcase that 4 tracks potentially could fit on this property before reaching the nearest neighbor on the right. You can notice 750 feet to the nearest neighbor. Again, looking south on Bird Road, you see the tract 1 house under renovations. As well, looking north, you see tract 2 house there, also under renovation. And then tracks 3 and 4, this is about the approximate termination of tracks 4 and the adjacent nearest neighbor to the right on the northeast. So again, the TRC did analyze this request, and while it is noted that R1 is not recommended and it should be severely limited, we had no technical objections, noting that the unique shape of the property, coupled with the requirements for individual well and septic, naturally limits the overall development, and therefore staff recommended approval of the request for R1. Planning Commission also heard the request at their meeting, and based on the site plan or the proposed here, hearing no opposition, they also recommended approval as well, 8-0.
Any questions for Mr. Dillard? Okay, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hey, my name's Trip Talley. My address is 113 Fairway Drive. I just want to come forward really, I guess, and answer any questions, but like JD said, I think the layout with the setbacks, everything like that, I think it all kind of fits the property well. There seems to be a lot of growth in the area too. There's some newer houses, as he kind of showed on one of the map pictures, that just shows some newer houses and stuff like that being built in the area, especially with the county school system growing, everything like that. I just think it's a great layout. I think with the setbacks being there, I think everything works great, but of course I just want to answer any questions or anything y'all might have for me. So,
Any questions for Mr. Talley? All right, thank you, sir.
thank you.
All right, we didn't have anybody that was speaking in opposition, but is there anyone on the rebuttal that would like to rebut? Anyone in favor that would like to rebut? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote by raising your right hand. All in favor signify by aye. It's unanimous. We'll now move, I failed to do this, Commissioners, prior to. I have an agenda item that I need to add to the agenda. I should have announced at the beginning of the meeting, but this would be item 6F, and the subject is the resolution approving the intergovernmental contract with the hospital bonds. So are there any objections to adding that agenda item? Okay, hearing none, we'll add it to the agenda. All right, we'll now move on to 5C, and this is REZ 24-03. It's the Southern Gardens location, and that address is 4609 Bemis Road. This involves 5 acres. It is currently CG, and the request is for PD, and it will be served by county utilities. Mr. Dillard.
Yes, sir. This request is for PD in order to accommodate a 60-unit apartment complex with amenities. It's within the corridor overlay on Bemis Road, the urban service area, a neighborhood activity center character area, which per comprehensive plan guidance, neighborhood activity centers should include a mix of retail services to offer residents day-to-day needs, and residential development should reinforce the center by locating higher density housing options adjacent to the center, targeted at a broad range of income levels, including multifamily townhomes, apartments, and condominiums. You'll note the zoning pattern here of the planned development to the northeast, north, and northwest being mixed of single-family duplexes and apartments. And you'll notice across the street there, Hamilton Green is a planned development for townhomes. You'll note the properties to the south are vacant commercial properties, and the CH portion immediately adjoining this property is currently developed partly as a car wash. So again, you see that suburban and neighborhood activity center character areas. No wetlands on the map to speak of. And this is the original site plan that was proposed at the beginning of this application process. The applicant took this one to the Planning Commission, and based on some of their feedback, created an updated site plan. This locates the 2 3-story buildings along the northern southern property lines, relocating the 1-story community building to the west along the Glen Laurel subdivision to the single-family homes, set back approximately 85 to 97 feet as indicated on the site plan. Again, this is an overall aerial view from approximately 30 feet up, looking immediately south at the vacant properties that are currently zoned CG. This is the remainder of the Southern Gardens property you see here. As we tilt more to the west, you see the backside of Glen Laurel subdivision. And then as we tilt to the north, you will see the duplexes of Patriots Place. And again, continuing to the north here, you see the apartment complexes coming into view there, 2-story apartments along the western side and 3-story apartments of Patriots Place as well. And again, that partially built out commercial portion that you saw, currently a car wash. Across the street, you noted the commercial there with the Domino's, Subway, and Dollar General. And then the Hamilton Green townhomes currently under construction across the street, again, 80 units there. So again, just looking south along Bemis at that vacant property before you get to, I believe, Lighthouse Baptist Church. This is a view from the ground, again, of that property. You'll notice the site plan in the upper right-hand corner showing the approximate view and location. Again, looking more towards the west from the ground view, and an approximate 30-foot view looking to the west as well. Now looking to the north, again, at the duplexes. Again, partially the duplexes and the apartments. The commercial property, the 3-story apartments in the background there, and then across the street at Hamilton Green Townhomes under construction. So again, this was the original site plan that was proposed, and this is the updated site plan, relocating the proposed buildings away from the single-family residential to the west. So with that being said, the TRC did analyze the request, the standards governing zoning powers in 100105, and the factors most relevant, noting that the site plan does meet all technical standards from the TRC's perspective. It meets the comprehensive plan and the existing land use pattern, and then again, therefore, recommending approval of that plan. After the Planning Commission, the updated site plan, again, the TRC reviewed it at their meeting, found it still compliant with the increase in spaces here compared to the original site plan, and still recommends approval. So, Commissioners, if you so move to approve the request, I would ask that you just please specify if it's for the original or the revised site plan.
Any questions for Mr. Dillard?
I hate to ask this after that wonderful aerial drone view, but the property immediately to the north, there's no unoccupied property there now. It's the car wash.
Yes, sir. There is the duplexes on the western portion of that northern property, and then you see the car wash on that front half. There is a parcel immediately adjacent to that car wash that could be developed, but it's still commercial highway zoning. Beyond that is the Patriot Place Apartments, the 3-story building.
So CH is on either side.
CH is the immediate parcel to the north. CG is immediately to the south, those vacant properties.
Have we had any interest, anybody come in and talk about any development on those two?
We have not been contacted about those two properties. We have been contacted about other properties immediately in this area for potential development, but we have not met with them yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The pond on the property, is that a retention pond?
Yes, sir. I believe the applicant's engineer is here and can better answer some of the more detailed questions, but that is typically what it is shown for. Yes, sir.
Any other question for Mr. Dillon?
Just the buffer area that's specified, that's as landscape, is that going to include trees as well? Or some
Yes, sir.
of those
That's
trees?
30-foot landscape buffer as well, including vegetation.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Cox. My name is Matthew Cox. I am a homeowner at 4095 Glenlaurel Drive East. I'm not the best public speaker, so apologies in advance. I had a whole thing listed out here for tonight, opposing most of the original plan. I have not seen the updated plan until tonight, so honestly, a lot of my issues have gone away, but they are still still some concerns. Since I live in the Glen Laurel subdivision, the concerns, I guess, then would turn to the duplexes on the north side of the property where you have 3-story units overlooking single-story homes with giving them no privacy in their backyards. The other issue that was brought up at the planning committee meeting was the fact that there are not enough parking spaces at the current, I don't know if the current or the updated plan adds additional parking spaces, but there was only 1.8 parking spaces per unit at that facility. And it was characterized at the planning committee that it was housing targeted towards low income and military families. And if any of you know any military families, that you know that most of them are either married or partners with civilians, so that's typically going to be a two-car household or two-car dwelling, and 1.8 spots per unit is not going to suffice for that many units. But I hope that this still gets to stay either commercial or I am happy to see at least that the plan has been revised to put the community center on the adjacent properties to the Glen Laurel subdivision. So, any questions?
Any questions for the speaker?
First of all, you did good.
I hate public speaking, so.
So you're concerned about the parking. I mean, are y'all seeing issues in Glen Laurel?
Not us. It was just mainly at the planning committee. There was concerns brought up that.
So you're not fearful that their residents?
Oh, I don't care about their properties, their parking, but it's a point that I would contest that it probably still needs revisiting.
Okay, and I wasn't trying to be, I was just making sure that they weren't parking in Glen Laurel on the sides of the roads or something.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. We'll have about 7 minutes. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Melanie Farrell, 3548 North Crossing Circle, Valdosta. I'm a representative of the owner and developer, and since the Planning Commission approval of our site plan, we did take into consideration the concerns from the citizens. We have increased the number of parking spaces, and we have more than the code requires. I think there's over 2 per unit now. And we moved the building so that no 3-story buildings overlook the residential backyards. And so I just ask that you approve our request, and do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I just Had the question again about the landscape. I know y'all did everything you can to work with them. Really like the revised conceptual plan. But in the landscape buffering area, would you include, I know, some trees, additional trees?
We will definitely include trees. And we like to include as much landscaping as we can. It's really required, usually by our funding. So yes, the answer is yes.
Appreciate it.
Melanie, is this group of investors or owners, they have other similar properties?
We do. We own 55 similar properties all over Georgia. So we're based in Georgia. We have 11 properties in Lowndes and Valdosta, and 8 of those are similar kind of housing.
So not to harp on parking, but this is no different. This particular design is no different than some of your others.
No, we usually typically build 2 per unit. And we've never had an issue. And we've only had an issue one time with elderly housing that had less than one and a half unit spaces per unit. So no, two per unit for a family has been plenty.
Are those parking spots assigned?
No.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Okay, hearing none, I'll give opportunity to the opposition for rebuttal.
Name again, or?
Yeah, give me your name and
Matthew
address
Cox,
again.
4095 Glen Laurel Drive East. I do appreciate the comment about the landscaping. The main concern I would have with the landscaping proposal there would be, is it going to be upkeep of current landscaping that's there, or is it going to be completely new landscaping that replaces what's available? That's it.
Okay. Opportunity for those in support.
So if there's any old trees there, we'll keep them, but otherwise it'll be new landscaping.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
We have buffer requirements
Correct.
that dictates the number of shrubs, trees, caliper, all of that.
That's correct.
Stringent.
Yes.
Yes, sir, and
It's
that
like
is noted
30
on the
feet.
site
That's
plan
in the
here.
design
It's
standard.
in the design.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman,
Move that we approve the revised conceptual plan with the revised plan.
Okay, on the updated site plan.
That's correct.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with the updated site plan. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote with show of hands. All in favor signify by aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll now move to agenda item REZ 24-04. This is the Clightstone Road subdivision. This involves 62 acres. It is currently R1. The request is for R10, and it will be served by county utilities. Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, sir. Again, as stated, 110 lot subdivision is requested here, and thus the zoning desire for R10. You note the property does have frontage on Clightstone and a small portion there on Rocky Hill Church. It's within the urban service area and suburban character area, and you do note some wetlands on the property which are noted and mitigated here through the proposed site plan. Now, in 2020, the Ballantyne subdivision was approved toward the eastern half of this property. You'll note here that there were conditions regarding lot size, and you see the half-acre lots along Clightstone and down Simpson Lane. You see a third-acre size lots in the light blue and the yellow being a quarter-acre size lots. Some of those conditions also included the sidewalks and lots facing the interior as well as the park amenities there. This is the proposed layout for the Clightstone Road subdivision from the applicant. You'll again note the half-acre lot sizes in orange along Clightstone Road, the third-acre lot sizes in the light blue there, and the quarter-acre lots in the yellow as well. Just for reference, this is both neighborhoods, if approved, side by side, showing the mixture of densities. And again, the Planning Commission heard the request at their meeting. TRC analyzed the request and had no concerns from a technical standpoint. And again, noting the standards for exercising zoning power set forth in 100105, finds the request consistent with the comprehensive plan and land use patterns, and therefore recommends approval with conditions that lots abutting Clydestone Road shall be a minimum of half acres in size. And that's what the Planning Commission recommended approval for, was that condition for R10.
Any questions from Mr. Dillard?
I guess the one I had might not be with JD, but possibly the attorney. I just want to know, is the agreement that's signed by the developer and the neighbor binding that's in this packet?
You're speaking of the same conditions that were put on the Byzantine?
It's a letter in here, applicant and neighbor agree upon conditions, and I didn't know if that's technically binding, or do we have to put it as a condition? Both individuals signed it.
For the vinyl siding and all that.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
That's an agreement between the two parties, and unless you make it a condition, it's not a condition, it's an agreement between private parties.
Okay. I was just wondering, I was looking at no vinyl and different things like that, and I know we have some standards, but I didn't know if it was actually binding.
That's, as we said, as the attorney said, it is an agreement between the two parties. It's not an agreement between either one of them and the county.
Okay.
Unless you make it a condition.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? All right, we'll now move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Farrell Scruggs Jr., 502 Eagle Road, Valdosta, and I'm representing Cat Creek Development and speaking in favor of the zoning. I'd like to ask for your positive consideration. We've taken careful consideration in designing this project with the mix of lots, the size of the lots, and the road layout. The plan's in keeping with the surrounding developments. You know, we've taken careful consideration considering Valentine next door. It meets the surrounding developments and the comprehensive plan. The county, you guys have made significant infrastructure investments in that area, so I think it's in keeping with that, and they'll be used for this project. I have worked with Stephen Cooper. He's with Meadowwood Subdivisions. That's who's opposed the one last time. And I'm not sure who all he represents over there, but it's a good many of them that live there. And he and I have come up with the lot size mix and the square footage. It's he and I who signed the agreement. And I have been asked many times, it is my intent to develop the subdivision. It is not sold to another outside developer. Not saying that can't change, but I have not been contacted and it is not sold. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Scruggs? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Stephen Cooper, 4709 Summerfield Drive. As he mentioned, we've worked together. We put this agreement together, signed, saying that we would hope these conditions would be implemented into the signing if this was all approved. In the event, like he said, if it was sold to another developer, they would still have to abide by it. And we agreed that it would be done to keep in conjunction with what's going on now. By things not being in writing before with the Valentine subdivision, we almost run into a debacle with exterior finishes. Fortunately, we were able to resolve that, and we're trying to now just keep everything very consistent across the board so that all the development looks the same. So hoping it can be made part of the condition, so that if it were sold, like I said, anybody else would have to abide by it.
Any questions for Mr. Cooper? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. We still have about 7 minutes. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting because we had no one in opposition. Then we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
If I could just say, I think that when we have groups like these two gentlemen and they come together and you know, they kind of work it out among themselves and there's, you know, there's camaraderie and, I think it is essential. Even though I'm typically kind of against placing all these conditions, but I think since they've got an agreement that they agreed to, I would strongly urge us to make sure those conditions are made part of the rezoning. Because again, the last time, there was 4 or 5 houses built, and there was misunderstanding, and siding had to be replaced. So,
Well, if you're real quick, you'll have that opportunity.
okay, well, if you're ready for it, then I'll make a motion.
I second.
All right, I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve with the conditions that were agreed upon between Mr. Cooper and Mr. Scruggs
In the agreement.
in the agreement.
In the agreement.
I second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, then I'll call the vote with a show of hands. All in favor signify by aye. Any in you and I are in opposition?
I'm in favor.
You're in favor, so it's unanimous. All right, we'll now move to agenda 5E, and this is REZ 2024-05. This is the Dasher property. It is located at 1776 Old Clyteville Road. This involves 115 acres. It is currently EA and conservation, and the request is for M2 and conservation, and it also will be served with county utilities. Mr. Dillard.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the request here for the M2 portion is actually only a small portion of the 115 acres. Based on the survey, it's approximately 16.45 acres. The rest shall remain in conservation or be added to conservation, which I'll show a little bit later on. You do note the predominant zoning pattern here of M2 to the north and east. Those are within the city limits, transitioning to the south for the county, where it goes from M1, M2, and commercial highway. And again, larger lot sizes and a mixture of uses. It does note the Park Rec Conservation Character Area and the Regional Activity Center Character Area split this property. And as you'll note here, the wetland lined with this run of Mud Creek and the floodplain are what's driving this request for conservation, and then the smaller portions remain M2. Here's a survey of the property showing the approximate 98.73 acres to be rezoned to fully conservation, and the remainder 16.45 to be rezoned to M2 with conditions if approved. Again, here's an aerial of the property. You'll note one existing house on the far right-hand corner of there. I believe that house has been abandoned for some time now. And again, here's another representation of the 16.45 acres being requested to go to M2 and the EA portion being requested to go to conservation, the remainder. So with that being said, the TRC did analyze this request as well. And again, the standards governing zoning powers in 100105 and recommends approval with conditions that 1, Section 100205C of the ULDC must be completed and submitted to the county manager or their designee by any and all future prospects for review prior to any development approval from the local issuing authorities, and correctional facilities, transitional care facilities, and junk and salvage yards shall not be permitted uses. The Planning Commission heard this request with staff's recommended conditions, and hearing no one speak in opposition, recommended approval 6-0.
Any questions for Mr. Dillard? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move into the public hearing portion of this request. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Mike Newsom, I'm a real estate broker representing Mr. Stephen Dasher, who owns the property. He lives at 3327 Doverwood Lane in Fuqua, Varina, North Carolina. This was his old mother's home place, and she passed away, and he bought it from her. My address is 209 Hunters Hill Court, Macon, Georgia. So Mr. Dasher asked me to assist him in selling this property, and so we explored what the highest and best use would be for the property, and that's why we're requesting the rezoning. Not trying to change anything to do with the conservation, actually adding to it, and we had a careful survey done to make sure we delineated not only the wetlands but the floodplain line.
Any questions for the speaker? All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commissioners, I'll turn it back over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the request. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by raising your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
I just want to say thank you for praying in the name of Jesus. There's not many public places.
I'm sorry. Save it. You can, if you need to speak to someone, just, we'll finish the meeting and then you're welcome to do that. Okay.
Safe travels.
All right, we'll, agenda item 6A is the Transportation Investment Act, known as TIA, the local project delivery application for Hall Road. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. Hall Road is on the Transportation Investment Act constrained list to start professional engineering in June of 2024. This application starts the process to allow Lowndes County to manage the project and the procurement process.
Any questions for Mr. McLeod? Or whoever's in the cloud? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the application and authorize you to sign the application.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the application and authorize the chairman to sign. Do we have a second? Second. Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6B is the Transportation Investment Act for the local project delivery application of Orr Road Extension. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. Orr Road extension is also on the TIA list to begin engineering in June of 2024. This application starts the process for Lowndes County to manage the project and procurement process.
Any questions for Mr. McLeod? Hearing none, I'll entertain. Oh, I'm sorry.
Land acquisition involved in that, wasn't
Sir?
We already had the right of way.
We have the right of way.
We have the right of way that's currently there.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the application.
Do we have a motion to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the application? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6C is the purchase of wetland credits for Coleman Road Northwest paving project. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. As part of the Coleman Road Northwest paving project, the construction will impact 0.439 acres of wetlands. As a result, Lowndes County will be required to purchase 2.64 wetland credits to finalize the wetland impact permit for this project. We are asking to approve the purchase of 2.64 wetland credits from Williams Investments for $39,600.
Thank you, Mr. McLeod. Any questions for Mr. McLeod? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the purchase of 2.64 wetland credits from Williams Investment LLC for $39,600.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the purchase of the wetland credits. Do I have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6D is the Walker Avenue quitclaim. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. On May 8th, 2012, the Lowndes County Board of Commissioners abandoned the unopened right-of-way of Walker Avenue off of US 41 South and Daniele Drive South. Lighthouse Christian Fellowship Center has requested their portion, which is 0.115 acres of abandoned right-of-way, be quitclaimed to them. Lighthouse Christian Fellowship prepared the survey and plat while the county attorney prepared the quitclaim deed.
Any questions for Mr. McLeod? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Evans. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6E is the abandonment of a portion of Racetrack Road Southeast. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. The county has received a request to abandon a portion of Racetrack Road Southeast. The portion of the road is approximately 1,720.50 linear feet. It begins at the intersection of Madison Highway, then west to the dead end. Staff did not receive any comments from stakeholder departments or public safety. There are not any houses or structures that access this portion of the road. The request came from Langdale Volatin, attorneys at law representing Southern Gateway LLC, who owns all the surrounding property of Racetrack Road Southeast. Georgia statute requires an initial determination, either A, that the section of the county road system has for any reason ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it, or B, that its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best public interest, or both. If the board makes either or both of these determinations, the statute requires for notice to adjoining property owners, notice to the public by newspaper publication, and a public hearing.
Okay, any questions for Mr. McLeod? So what we're looking for is a motion that would include the initial termination.
Mr. Chairman, I move we determine that the section of the county road system that has ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Same. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6F is the hospital bond resolution. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Forgive me for reading, but the legal language of this is pretty specific. The Hospital Authority issued revenue certificates in 2001 and revenue refunding certificates. I'm sorry? 2011. I'm sorry, 2011. And revenue refunding certificates, see what I mean about being legally specific. In 2019, to refund the 2011 certificates, the county entered into intergovernmental contracts with the authority providing additional security for both of these series of certificates. The Hospital Authority is now issuing not to exceed 140 million revenue certificates to finance improvements in construction at South Georgia Medical Center, including women's, infants, and emergency trauma services. The Hospital Authority is requesting the county to enter into a similar intergovernmental contract to provide similar additional security. The required resolution is before you for consideration.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Who actually decides on the up to 140 million? Do we decide on that, or does the hospital authority decide on that?
That's the request from the hospital, and on this intergovernmental agreement, it is not to exceed one.
Who decides how much? Is it the hospital decide or the county decide?
The ultimate if you look at the contract, there's a blank for the, on page 1 for the final amount, so that will be decided by both the hospital and the authority when that proposed final amount is determined.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I just wanted to make sure we had, anyway, yeah, that answers my question.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7, County Manager's Report. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the morning at 10 a.m., VLPRA is holding a ribbon cutting for the new gym floor at the Mildred Hunter Center. On Thursday, I'll be speaking at the South Georgia Women's Leadership Initiative graduation program in Cairo, along with Celine Gladwin, to talk about our historic courthouse project. Thursday evening at 6 p.m., we will be hosting Rotary at the historic courthouse, and you all are invited to join us for a tour and for their reception. On Monday at 10 a.m., we will be celebrating Sparky the Fire Dog's birthday at Georgia Christian School. You all are invited to join us for that event as well. And then Tuesday evening, the 19th, we have the Anchored in Hope dinner at Fox Hill for the Children's Advocacy Center. On Wednesday, the 20th at 10 a.m., we will be cutting a ribbon on the Clyattville Community Center. Commissioner Weisenbaker, we look forward to seeing you there. And on Saturday, the 23rd, we will have the annual cook-off for the Boys and Girls Club at Seasons, which you all know Lowndes County Fire Rescue as well as Lowndes County Sheriff's Office have been very competitive. The Sheriff's Office won it this past year. The Fire Department won it the year before. And then that evening, Chairman Slaughter will put on his dancing shoes for Dancing with the Stars. This past weekend was quite the winning weekend for Lowndes County. VSU brought home the women's basketball championship. Lowndes County Fire Rescue won one of 2 divisions at Kinderloo with the South Georgia Medical Center golf tournament there. And then Lowndes County's own Bryce Garnett won the Puerto Rico Open. So we're excited for our impact and demonstrating further that we are still Wintersville here in Lowndes County.
Absolutely. That's right.
That Dancing with the Stars deal, is that going to be televised?
I hope not.
I don't know, Gretchen, can you help us with that?
Listen, there is a comedy section in it, so come watch me dance and you'll get all the comedy you need.
Oh, Bill.
Just don't trip and fall.
Ain't no
Yeah.
Bill can dance.
He can dance. I've seen he and Commissioner Evans.
That's a different kind of dancing than what this crowd does. That's what I told them all the time. I can dance that way, but this business about getting steps down right here or there, that's a whole different ballgame.
So you can do the twist?
I can do the twist. All right. Any questions or comments,
We have
Commissioner?
one citizen.
Whoop. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We do have one citizen wishing to be heard, Ms. Sandra Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Sandra Diaz-Jones, and I'm a resident of 4940 Coppage Road, and that's in Hayhire, Georgia. I stand before you because I was taught when someone does something for you to always go back and say thank you. So a few months ago, you all appointed me as one of your new tax assessors. So with that being said, I just wanted to stand before you tonight and say thank you. It is an honor to serve, and I will do my very best to serve this county, this great county, Lowndes County, with integrity and be uniform in whatever I do for the citizens of this county. Because you entrusted me with such a great honor, I just wanted to come before you tonight and say thank you. That's it.
You're
Well,
welcome.
thank you for agreeing to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. All right, any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.